This week on Front End Fire, Rust has another convert, NPM takes another stab at stopping the hackers, we'll see if it works, and Jack had a coding battle against robots and against AI that he's going to report back on. It's another episode, let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Front End Fire, the weekly show that helps you stay up to date on the latest and the greatest in the front end world. I am your host today, TJ Van Tol. I have Jack Harrington with me.
Hello everybody.
And Paige Niedringhaus.
Hey.
And we got some good stuff today. We got more hacking updates as we always do, but we've got some fun. Jack's got a fun story for us. We got some cool things to talk about. So why don't we get into it?
Yeah.
All right, Paige, why don't you kick us off today? I hear Bun is back in the news.
Bun is back in the news. So Bun has joined the Rust train, just like every other tool chain in the JavaScript ecosystem.
And from Zig, no less.
It is. It is coming from Zig, which I don't know if any of us actually knew how to write. Very few people probably actually know how to write Zig, if we're being honest.
Probably. Yeah.
But yeah, it started as an experimental branch by Jared Sumner, who's the creator of Bun. And he said that he wasn't going to merge it. And then 6 days later, he merged it. And there's not a lot of writing, or there's not a blog post, as far as I know, about like the internals or more of the reasoning behind it. But basically, it shrinks Bun's binary, so it goes down 3 megabytes to just 8 megabytes, so it is smaller. The benchmarks for it are neutral to faster, so it is slightly better in those regards, or at least the same. All the tests that they use to verify functionality are still passing, and I think the biggest thing that he explained was that it has new compiler-assisted tools for catching and preventing memory bugs. So
yeah. I mean,
apparently Bun was struggling with that. The team was struggling even more to actually debug it and fix it. So by switching over to Rust, they have just automatically given themselves much better tools to manage, see, and fix potential future issues with memory.
I gotta say, if Zig supposedly, why pick Zig? If Zig had it had probably what seems like the same memory problems as like C and C++, because they were talking about like freeing and allocating and all that sort of stuff, and those being issues. Like, yeah, you kind of get that with C too. Like, what's the big win for Zig here? Although, the big win for Rust obviously is, they've got this whole managed memory system, and there's this concept of like kind of ownership that you needed to like transfer as you're moving memory around. So it's much more reliable in that sense, and I think that's great.
I don't think this sort of big, because the scale of this is enormous.
Yeah.
Like the PR in GitHub, when I was looking at it earlier, barely loads because there's just so much going on with it. And I don't think something like this even happens in a pre-AI world, because a sizable chunk, if not most of this, was just
99% of that was AI.
Well, he works for Anthropic, so he's got unlimited Claude.
Yes, that's true. Literally unlimited tokens. Of course. Yes. There you go.
And I guess sense. Like the one thing about this is I saw in here, he claimed that having a very thorough test suite was part of what made this possible and apparently trustworthy. And I don't think this is not an official release yet, right? Like I saw that it was merged, so it's in their main branch, but I don't think it's out yet.
I think that you have to run a special bash command or set a flag to be able to install this newest version of the binary and see how it compares. But I don't think that it's just general release yet.
And I have heard, I think, that there have been a lot of reports of instability on this thing. Like this is definitely
surprising.
Flaky. So clearly the tests were not complete, if that's the case. So, and you'd have to assume that kind of thing. But then again, like Bun has always been the VM for folks who are like, yeah, I want that cutting edge thing. I want it to go incredibly fast. I want it, or whatever. Not really. It's like a little bit faster, but whatever. I'm willing to take that bet. Like if you want the safe part, go with Node or go with Dino. Those are safe, trusted, reliable. Every time I worked on Bun and there's been an issue, I've been able to like go back to Node and there was literally no issue there. So it's been some incompatibility with Bun, and those have persisted every time I've tried it.
I mean, that right there is probably why Bun was written in Zig. Just to be contrary, not for actual performance gains or benefits, just because it could be.
Ooh, that's a spicy take. Woo!
Yeah. Well, and they claim to part of it. I mean, part of it is technical. Part of it is also just, even in an AI world, it's not the greatest to be written in a programming language that nobody knows or is familiar with, because like I said, even though you can have AI agents do things, you still want people that have the ability to know the ecosystem, have tooling available. People write tools for Rust. I don't know what the Zig ecosystem is like, but I can't imagine it's all that robust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say
it's
that
hard
probably
enough.
one of Zig's banner projects was Bun. Now it ain't.
Yeah, it's hard enough to find Rust developers, because I know that my company employs them, and like finding good people who know the ecosystem well is difficult. So finding Zig or people who can write Zig is probably way, way harder.
Yeah. We've talked about tools on here that have moved from Rust back to TypeScript because Rust was too esoteric, so much less Zig.
Yep. So we'll keep you abreast if it decides to go to, some other language. Maybe TypeScript is next. Who knows?
Well, speaking of AI writing code, Jack, I hear you've got a pretty fun story for us.
Yeah, so yesterday I was on Jason Langsdorf's Greenfield Games, and we did episode 4. So the premise of Greenfield Games is you've got 2 teams of 3 individuals each. They're prompted to build something. So in this case, we were prompted to build something like Notion, but better. And there's criteria for like, okay, it needs to handle slash commands, and it needs to handle this type of, workflow. It needs to be live, connection between documents. So I type, and then if somebody's looking at the same thing in the browser and someplace else, they see it, kind of stuff. At least that's what it was in this case. And then an AI comes in, and it's basically a Wiggum loop AI that's given the exact specs that we are. And then there's a blind judging where we sit in a back room, like you would imagine on any kind of reality TV show, and we watch a TV as the judges blind judge the 3 different apps and see which one they prefer. And so for my team, it was me and Matt Billman, who is the CEO of Netlify. I work at Netlify. And Dana Lawson, who's the CTO of Netlify, and she's awesome. And we just had a great time. And to be honest, it's going to be fun just watching us like trash talk, and do all that kind of fun stuff and play Rubik's Cube and yada yada yada. But yeah, and I gotta say, I'm optimistic that we did well. So you should tune in, check that episode out, and go, and watch it. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I don't know, I haven't watched the other episodes. I came in completely, kind of blind, other than what the requirements were. In fact, I kind of misread the requirements. I thought it was gonna be like sort of inspired by Notion, and so my initial thought was like, oh, let's do like a scrapbooking app or something like that, because like Facebook was supposed to be scrapbooking, and then it became the
what it
that it is right
Yeah.
now, right? But I still think there's a space in this world for people to just like share family memories and like do that kind of stuff. So, and I think Notion's that place because you're going to get charged an arm and a leg, by the way, if you do that with Notion. Just FYI, it's like $300 a person, so don't do that. Anyway, so yeah, it was really, but that wasn't it. It was like do Notion. And we actually got one more thing about this. There was what you're playing against is a replay-based product. So there's a company called Replay, Mark Erikson, who works on Redux, good friend of mine, he works there. And they have this is a product that they're starting to think about putting out there, which is this kind of Wiggum Loop product. But they also have this really cool like AI QA person, effectively, and you tell it what your app is supposed to do, and then it runs a bunch of tests against that, and even can do it logs in, it does all this work, and it'll register bugs automatically, and it'll verify that they're there or not there, or all that kind of stuff. So, and that was like super helpful because you only get like 6 hours to build this thing, which sounds like a lot, but really isn't in practice. And having that tool was really helpful because we could basically just preload it with like here's the rubric, you know, we got to make sure that we hit that, at least that, and then whatever we do on top of that is the cherry on top.
So I'm curious. I've not done any hackathons since AI is truly kind of taken off. How did you approach the collaboration part of it? Because you had a team of 3. Were you working on 3 different features still and trying to deal with that at like the source control level, or were all 3 of you just staring at one computer, prompting it, or how did you approach that?
Okay, well, for all the Netlify marketing folks out there listening to this now, I did not tee that up, actually, but it's going to sound really good for Netlify. We use this thing called agent runners on Netlify. So like from the very beginning, you basically just create, we all 3 of us took the same prompt, make a Notion clone, blah, 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 blah. And then we put it in, Dana put it into Gemini, I put it into Codex, Matt put it into Claude Code, and it generated a site. And then we kind of like, in golfing terms, we played from the best lie there.
Yeah.
And used Matt's starting point because that came out, the best, although they were all pretty much the same. And then from there on, we just continuously use this agent runner mechanism that was actually built in. It is built into Netlify to basically just keep prompting it. So it'd say, okay, well, now that you can do this, add this. And that would create like a branch, an actual Git branch for that feature. You could, have a whole agent, chat conversation, the whole thing. And because we're on Neon as the backend database, that branched too. And then once you actually got the feature to where you want it to be, then you'd go and do a full PR with GitHub and then merge that in. And so, it was that was there, but we weren't doing any local development. And one of the cool things was like from the very beginning, we were in prod. Everything was, prod. And then in terms of kind of divvying up the work, so Dana did a lot of stuff on the AI side. Matt did a lot of stuff kind of on the ergonomics, like just, the very core like functionality of the UI side. And then I took on the multi-tenancy, and that actually resolved pretty quickly. We went from a single user to a multiple user system pretty quickly. But then there was this whole thing around email that just kind of was the problem that kept going and going and going as email security has gotten really heavy since the last time I looked at it. And so now you have to have like DNS records and blah, 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 blah. And it just took us a while. We literally had to like call up the CEO of the company that we decided to use for the email stuff. I actually just DM him and say like, hey, can you verify us, real fast? It was nice that we had connections like that, and yeah, so we divvied up the work. And we always had this idea of like, make sure, because Dana had actually judged the first episode, she knew what got teams. And what tended to get the human teams was that they would lean into all the cool stuff and forget the basics. Mm-hmm. Where the AI would just do the basics and would beat you because the humans had messed up the basics, right? So we leaned into making sure that the thing just worked, like the invite flow worked every single time. And so that was a lot of what I did. I did a little bit on the AI side as well. And, I guess that's in my wheelhouse, but yeah, no, it was a really fun collaborative effort. And it was just great. It was just one of those great experiences.
So basically, the hackathon flow in 2026 is more or less agent orchestration and
Totally. Yeah,
Sounds
which
like
is
it.
more or less.
yeah, which is funny. But I mean, that's where
Nice.
we're at. So
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing what you can build, I'm sure, in 4 hours, 6 hours versus when you thought about this, hackathons would go on for a week in the past, and you'd maybe have like a halfway running application to show off at the end.
Oh yeah, in 6
Yeah.
hours, ain't no team of 3 people building a Notion clone. I don't care how talented you are. There's just so much grunt work involved in that.
Yeah, there's the whole auth flow. I mean, auth flow, it's on its own, is like a day killer, or used to be a day killer. Nowadays,
Easy.
you got good
Usually
primitives.
for hackathons, you would just skip that or just stub it out, basically, because
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
that wasn't the unique thing you were trying to show. It was
Yeah.
Yeah, go to the login page, use these credentials
Right.
only. Yeah, this is the
hard-coded,
tester
you gotta
credential.
use-
This
yeah.
is the manager credential, kind of thing.
Yep.
And it was literally like you could see it in the JavaScript, like if password is blah.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's actually like a real thing. Like I'll be honest, I mean I think that app still is running, and you can still use it, and it works. It actually works.
Nice.
All right. Well, my news for this week is about NPM. So NPM has been in the news a lot for the last few months, and not for the best reasons. It's kind of being used as a way to launch all sorts of attacks, which if you look at our backlog of episodes, you can find all sorts of stories we've covered around that. But they're looking to make some changes. So there was an RFC put out on their GitHub repo. And the way NPM works is they put out these RFCs, basically putting out to the public, this is something we kind of intend to do to gather feedback before they actually implement something. And the RFC that they put out that has gathered quite a bit of interest is that they're talking about blocking install scripts by default. So these are the scripts, the pre-install, install, post-install, scripts that you can tie to your NPM package. That is basically the mechanism that a lot of these attacks have used. So in the case of like the TanStack ones, for example, if you get the ability to publish a malicious package, what you do is you include a post-install script, which is just basically a bash script that NPM will run for you after the installation completes. And that bash script has user access on your computer, so it'll do bad things with that. Look for tokens, look for whatever it can find, and do nonsense with them. Well, so NPM is the only remaining package manager that runs these scripts by default. So at this point, PNPM has switched, Yarn, Bun, Dino, they all block them by default, and they all have some mechanism to re-enable them because there are some packages that rely on this, and that's why NPM made the point on why they don't just completely eliminate these from their ecosystem is that there are packages out here that use them for legitimate reasons. And so the PNPM model, which is what this RFC seems to be looking to implement, is that these scripts are blocked by default, but then there's some configuration you can use to whitelist certain packages that you do want to allow. And it sounds like that's the mechanism that they're leaning towards. So they talk about having an allow scripts field in your package.json where you'd include a list of scripts or a list of packages that are allowed to run scripts. And then they'll have this npm approve scripts and npm deny scripts to help users build and maintain their allow list, which I think it's probably past due that they did something like this. This probably would have been best implemented maybe a decade ago, but better late than never. And I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. And hopefully there's looking through the GitHub thread for this, most people are positive about this change. The only people pushing back are people that say maybe we should just not have install scripts at all. Maybe they should just be completely removed entirely. But that seems to be more of the conversation versus not whether NPM should do this or not.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that before when we've talked about PNPM and some of the other things that people are doing to try and mitigate the attack vectors and the potential of getting hacked. And I think we all kind of agreed that if NPM was to make a decision or a change as radical as that, it would probably break so much stuff on the web that we can't even anticipate because it's been around for so long. So Yeah, it's probably as good as it sounds, it's probably really a non-starter for so many reasons. But yeah, that's great. That's awesome that they're taking steps and are doing things to try and mitigate the issues.
Yeah, I think if you're an OSS maintainer and don't do a post-install script, certainly don't require one, ideally. And then if you can, just don't. They've always been a security issue. And, but we live in a world where like a lot of us do take the curl command, from readmes and are like, oh, great, let's just run that.
Here we go.
And it's going through bash, bro. Like, yo, like,
no problems here.
Talk about a security hole, man. Like, I remember like 20 years ago, people were doing that, and the security folks were like, you did what?
Yeah, absolutely.
You just took a curl command? Like, yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you install Node. Like, oh, kid, are you joking me right now?
Well, in NPM today, because I did look this up, there is a -- ignore -scripts flag. So if you want to try, you can run npm install and see if anything breaks. The problem with npm today is that they don't have, it's an all or nothing thing. So you can't say ignore just these scripts. If you say ignore scripts, you ignore all scripts. And so that's what makes it hard to use today. But again, hopefully looks like they're looking into this, and hopefully that'll change in the near future.
The package JSON update with the allowed scripts is standardized across all of them. It would be a big bummer if it wasn't actually. I haven't looked, but I hope it is.
Well, because PNPM uses a separate config file. I know that they previously let you put it in their package.json, but with 11, they switched fully over to a separate config file. So I've got, I could look up right now because I just made this conversion. So there's a pnpm-workspace.yaml. So
yeah, I have those, but that's because I do a lot of monorepo stuff. So
yep.
All right. I love me some PNPM, but
yeah.
But YAML? Come on, guys. JSON. Give me a break.
All right. Well, that is our news for this week, but we got a couple bonus news segments, so why don't we get to our lightning news? All right. Well, I can take the first one of this. We talked a couple episodes ago, it's probably been a few months since the State of Web Dev AI survey went out, and the results have come in for this. And there was just a couple stats from this that I wanted to cover. If you want to go through the full result of this, the link is in the show notes. They got like 9,000 people to respond to this, so pretty decent sample size. And it's from, it's State of Web Dev AI, so it is very specific to the group of people that are very interested in this podcast. So I thought it was worth talking about. And the main headline news story from this, or the main finding, and I'll just read this straight from the survey, the proportion of AI-generated code produced by respondents has jumped from 28% on average in 2025 to 56% this year. So basically, within a year, people are reporting AI having gone from 28% to 56% of the code they're written, which for a survey,
that's an exact 2x multiplier. But I'm actually surprised that's as low. That's actually low to me, honestly.
Yeah, I think if we did the survey again, because this was from a few months ago, I think even in a few months, it's probably up another almost order of magnitude. That would be my guess, because it's a little bit of a trailing with how fast the AI world moves. This is actually a few months is a trailing indicator,
right?
It really is. I mean, it is shocking when I think about just in like the past 3 months since I joined the company that I work for now called Allspice, how much better AI has gotten at writing full featured code, how much the skills have improved, how much the harnesses, I guess, have gotten dialed in for writing decent, really decent code, and how much less intervention I need to do to make sure that it's good enough and passes my quality bar before I'll release it as a PR or push it into the main branch.
And the next thing I wanted to talk about is just the coding agents, because they asked people what agents, what harnesses are you using and do you like them? So Claude Code was top of the list, 63% usage, and only 3.8% of those people have a negative sentiment. So quite a bit of users, not a lot of hate on Claude Code. Kind of similarly, so Codex was 34.5% usage, so quite a bit less usage, but only 2.6% of people had a negative sentiment, so overall pretty positive with Codex as well. And then the third tool, the last one I was going to talk about here, is GitHub Copilot. 68% usage, which was the highest usage of all of these, probably because it's built straight into VS Code, but a 13% negative sentiment, so quite a bit more negativity for GitHub Copilot. And then after that, it's a pretty big jump. So those three are clearly the three most used tools. And then there's a big jump down to everything else.
Yeah. Thinking about my own workflow and the experiences that I've had between Claude and GitHub Copilot and but Codex. Yeah, that all tracks. That all makes perfect sense. Like, Copilot is there. It is very easy to access, especially if you use VS Code already, but it is just not nearly as good in terms of actual code output or answers or anything as the other models are.
Yeah, and the harness makes a lot of difference. Like I find, like, I know Cursor does a lot of work on their system prompts specific to each model, to make sure that they're getting the best out of every single model, which I think is like, you look at that versus, folks like, Claude Code with the Anthropic models is going to give you really good output because they know how to system prompt those models. But if you've got like just kind of a generic harness that's just like, hey, here's some file stuff, go for it, whatever, you're not going to get that same level of output. And it's amazing, to be honest, the difference. Like, if you, I'm not going to name names, but I've used other like the lower down ones in the list. And it's like, they give me tons of tokens, like, here, man, go for it. Check it out, that kind of thing. And I'm like, I can't use this. Like, it's because the system prompts just aren't good. And you're not getting the same level of intelligence. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, it does make a huge difference, and you don't really notice it until you start switching models and trying different things, and it could give somebody a really false sense of how an IDE or an AI tool workflow orchestrator works if they just choose a bad model or a bad product instead of one that it's trained for, that it's kind of tuned towards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the difference just because of this podcast. I've installed and ran a laundry list of random tools. Like, I was just looking at what I had installed, and I had, anti-gravity. I had that what was the VS Code fork from ByteDance? That one was
Lynx or Trey AI.
Trey was Trey. Yep. Yeah, I've got that one installed. I've got a couple other ones that I can't even remember the names of. And even for some of those that have sometimes they, like Jack said, throw very generous, especially getting started things at you. Like, here's all the tokens you could want, but they're just not as good, honestly, as the harnesses that are optimized. So I'm with you, Paige. None of this surprises me. I mean, I'm a Claude Code user and I really love it. I've used GitHub Copilot, Copilot's agents and stuff, and I'm not in the negative sentiment bucket, but it's just kind of like meh. Like, I've used it before, but I just get better results from Claude Code. And then Codex for me is on my short list of things. I've toyed with it, but I need to use it for some serious stuff at this point to have more of an informed opinion. So I've still kind of just only dipped my toes into the Codex world.
Yeah,
I need to use more Gemini and more Gemma, to be honest.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was trying Gemini and the newest version of ChatGPT 5.5 for some image generation. And so I was using Claude to actually write the prompts, and then I was pasting those prompts into Nano Banana 2 and ChatGPT 5.5. Honestly, ChatGPT's image generation was better.
It's gotten so good.
Okay.
That actually showed up in this survey because they showed from year to year. Nano Banana last year had a huge edge in image generation, but this year ChatGPT has basically caught them. And I go to ChatGPT now exclusively because per their recent, I don't know if it was 5.5, but it's something that shipped within the last month. at the very least. It has gotten very good, and I've been using it for legitimate work purposes and getting good results out of it, which before that was the line for me when I can now actually use it to generate. My biggest thing is blog banners because I'm horrible at blog banners. Yes. It feels excessive to reach out to a designer for some silly, stupid thing, or YouTube thumbnails, which it's not quite there yet for YouTube thumbnails, I feel like. But once it crosses that bridge, that'll also save me an enormous amount of effort. So those are the things that it's...
Yeah. I should really start moving to that, to be honest.
Just give it a try.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I mean, my hot tip is to use one of the AIs to generate the prompt, because it is way better at writing those prompts out for me too. I'm just like, one line, general idea, and then it's like one paragraph, 15 bullet points in there, and then paste that in, and wow. Yes. Yeah, it really is.
That's awesome.
So much better than what I can do on my own.
So I did a thing for my wife for Mother's Day, and this wasn't a unique idea. She shared it with me on social media, but the thing on social media was my wife is a big book fan, right? And so the idea was to use AI to create images from popular books that we both like, but where we are the main characters in the book. So
nice.
That's great.
Which was such a fun. So I just had to give ChatGPT a picture of us, right? I found one I like, had it tweak it or whatnot. And then I would explain the world of the book. So you have to be careful because ChatGPT doesn't want to avoid copyright, right? So you have to, like, if you're telling it about Harry Potter, you have to say, like, it's a wizarding world and whatnot versus a world that's not quite Harry Potter.
Of Harry Potter. Yes.
But basically, Paige, I did kind of exactly what you said, where I was just working with ChatGPT and saying, okay, I want to prompt it and I want this. And then we worked on the prompt for quite a while to get it right. And then, I was blown away by the results. It was so good. And it's something I've tried to do. This is another thing. Months ago, I could not do that in ChatGPT. It would just come out kind of and messy, but it turned out really good.
Yeah. But I will say that Claude Desktop also has the ability now to make images, and they are not good. They are very, very not good. So do not use Claude for your image generation. That's another tip.
Always been terrible at SVGs. Oh my god.
It continues to be terrible.
So
it keeps trying too. Like it really thinks it's good.
Yeah. It's like a kid's drawing. It's like you put it on the refrigerator. It's so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I need an icon in this design, and it goes, I'll make it for you. And like, Claude, no, you're good actually. I'm good.
Please don't.
Don't. You're here, Daddy. No. God. Won't you take this to work and make this your logo for your company? Sure, Timmy. Yeah, I'm all about that. Yeah.
So any more in the survey then? I think, Jack, you had something else you wanted to mention.
Two more results in the opinion section that I found were kind of interesting and a little funny. One was about the AI bubble. And it's pretty clear that most folks think that we are, like 70% of respondents think we are in an AI bubble, which is kind of like, it was a very interesting question because like what part of this is the bubble? Like for me, like the subsidization part of it, like where Claude is over subsidized, that's a bubble to me. So I would probably say yes, but it's interesting. Like, is it the circle cycle of the monetary thing that's going on between like NVIDIA and Anthropic and all that?
I think that's part of it. What's the bubble? Yeah. All the investment that's happening for data centers, all all the buying of stuff, the buying of GPUs from NVIDIA for all this demand that's really only developers wanting to do code. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah,
XAI having a data center that they're just like, sure, you can use that. Come on over. We're not using it.
See, I'm in the 30%, and
really?
I mean, Anthropic just announced this week that they intend to have some profitable, to be revenue positive. So, how true that is, because they don't have to actually disclose their numbers quite yet, but that's a sign that at least we know the amount of money people are paying Claude is ridiculous. So now, obviously, what we don't know is how much money they're spending to make all of this possible, and that's what leads to a lot of questions. But I just think the demand is so insatiable that I think it's, nobody knows the future. But personally, I think we're at a healthy place still.
Well, and speaking of healthy, So my other one was, does AI pose an existential risk to humanity?
That old chestnut.
Yeah, which I think exactly. I think now as engineers, we experienced enough of it to have a not, I think it was like 36 agree, and then everybody else is either neutral or negative to that. So like 60, 54 or whatever, 64, if I can do math. So, which is interesting because if you ask like laymen out at Safeway or whatever, you think AI is going to eat our brains. They're, oh yeah, man, it's coming. But engineers are like, yeah, no, dude, I'm working with this thing. It can barely, like
it struggles with SVGs,
let alone,
right?
Yeah,
it can't make a T-shirt that looks good. Yeah,
it can't make an SVG, let alone eat your brain. Yeah,
right.
And that doesn't seem to want to. It seems just fine, just talking to me about how great I am, glazing me all the time.
It's really happy to just write tests all day long and do nothing besides that if I wanted it to.
Right.
I will say, though, that's still 36% of people that think humanity is threatened. If you would have asked 5 years ago...
1 in 3, that's true.
Yeah, if you would have asked 5 years ago and you heard back that 1 of 3 people thought AI was an existential threat to the human race, you might go, yeah, maybe there is something there.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I guess it's just kind of the experience that we have. We are with the AIs day in and day out. We see how good they are at some things and how absolutely terrible they are at other things. But if you're just kind of like watching the news cycle or reading articles about it, but not actually engaging with it yourself for your job or your interests or your hobbies or whatever, I could see that. The news is very inflammatory. The headlines are always what's going to get the most clicks and eyeballs, and that's not the fact that AI is kind of goofy and does what you ask it to do and is really enthusiastic, but also not very good in a lot of cases. They want the ones where it goes rogue and it breaks out of its containment unit and it's got off of its VM and it's blackmailing employees to not spill their secrets in an email and stuff like that. That's the interesting stuff. So when you read that kind of thing, sure, you're like, this is a disaster just waiting to happen.
Indeed. Well, speaking of AI, I think we have one last lightning news item. I think, Paige, you added this. Yes.
So this is, we've talked about Mark Erikson twice now in this podcast, which I don't think we've ever mentioned him twice, but, today's the day. But he wrote a really interesting, extremely long set of articles about his kind of coming around to AI, because if you know about Mark at all, he's been pretty down on AI since early days.
Yes.
Very much against it, very much using it, very much against using it. He was very skeptical, highly skeptical of it. And I think that he's not wrong. There were a lot of people who felt similarly, and he was one of the ones who's been in this for the love of the craft. So I think those people feel even more strongly about AI coming and taking their jobs and like destroying their craft. But over the past couple of years, through a lot of experimentation and like slowly dipping a toe and then a foot and then a leg and then like a whole lower body in, he's come around to it. And it's just really interesting to read about how it happened, how he started using it, where he started seeing the benefits of it. And if you're ready for a long, very long, like soul-searching post on coming to terms with AI in your job from a web development perspective, this is a really good one to read. But it's also really interesting how people's opinions can change as they experience it themselves and they do start seeing the value and they start getting that hit of dopamine and like, oh, I can do this thing that I always wanted to do but didn't have time to do before because now I can have an agent help me with it. And he's still getting like the benefits of it, which is the strategic thinking or earlier code that he wrote is helping the agent now to do its job today. But it's also a mind shift of I don't have to get so deep into the syntax of the code or know the specifics or do the spelunking through all these different repositories to understand the problem area and then try and figure out how to fix it. So if you need some convincing or you just want to see how people can come around to it, even if they're really, really against it right now, it would probably be worth taking a look through. But it is long. I will warn you right now.
Yeah,
It's very,
Mark
very
has never
long.
been known for brevity. Love my Mark.
No.
But brevity is not a trait. That guy.
Yeah, get some coffee, sit down, prepare yourself. But it's well,
Right.
it's interesting to see the journey. I think like that's because it's very thorough through time, so it's almost like a bit nostalgic to how naive we were back in the ancient times of 2023 and 2024 about what was coming.
Before times.
It is so funny because yesterday I spent a bunch of time actually with the guy from his boss at Relay, the CEO, and because that's the company that's doing the Wiggum loop. And so it's funny that they had they were not AI, and then they kind of embraced, and then they really embraced AI, and now he's really into with time we can make this thing make you any app you want kind of thing. And I'm not there personally. I think that there's a lot of human in the loop stuff that is gonna always need to happen. And anything of any value. If you want to tell me you can make a CRUD app or whatever that's going to go and manage a database, sure, 100%. You can, whatever. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be making Figma anytime soon. And it is interesting to see that company is now fully embracing it, and Mark is coming along for the ride. Because I remember being at React Conf 2023. And meeting Mark in person for the first time, and him being seriously anti-AI, and then kind of meeting him again in 2020, seeing him again in 2024, and kind of catching up with him, being oh, okay, he's starting to come around,
Indeed. It's a good read. We'll have it in the show notes if you want to check it out. But why don't we talk about what's making us happy?
Yeah.
Jack, what's making you happy this week?
Wilma the dog is making me happy this week. So my beloved Portland Pickles now have a new mascot. Another mascot beyond Dylan. And maybe we have a couple, I think. This one is a canine of the canine variety, and it has apparently gone through several months of training, and we will see her on the opening night, and then she'll be our mascot dog. And so I'm so looking forward to meeting Wilma. And we actually have two more teams that have started up in the same area. We've got they're actually Portland Pickles is baseball, and we got two soccer teams. One is the Bangers, meaning the sausage, and they've got a big sausage guy. So that's the men's team. And tonight we're going to go see oh my god, why am I spacing on the name? But we're going to go see the women's team tonight. So yeah, I just love it. We literally can just go down to this park, and the games are really fun, and the crowd atmosphere is just really fun. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to meeting Wilma.
Oh, do you know what kind of dog Wilma is?
I don't. Fluffy white dog, kind of like in the lab-ish space.
Okay.
Kind of maybe more hairy than that, but definitely kind of looks like a mutt of some variety, and that's fine by me. I'm all about the mutts. I'm not a purebred guy. I'm all about more mutt the better, really. Genetics for the win.
And go Pickles.
Go Pickles.
Go Pickles.
Paige, what's making you happy this week?
Riding in Waymos is making me happy this week.
That's so much fun. First time?
It is first time, yeah. Yes. So I went out this past week, I was out in San Francisco with my company doing an on-site, meeting everybody for the first time since I joined, and it was super fun. San Francisco is crazy. Just the amount of tech everywhere, and the tech ads, the billboards that don't make sense for people who are not in tech is nuts.
Right?
There's so much advertising. Yeah. It's crazy. I walked past the Pinterest offices. I walked past Adobe. We went to the Science Center in Golden Gate Park, and Anthropic was sponsoring an entire wing of it. It's just crazy.
That Science Center is actually really cool.
It is very cool. But the highlight was being able to order Waymos and just have them take us around town and not even have to think about it. It was so cool.
It really
I
is. It's
probably
game
rode
changer.
in, yeah, like 5 or 6 of them. They all did an awesome job. They're all the Jaguar X-type Waymos, and you just hop in. There's no one in the driver's seat. Everybody puts on their seat belts, and you hit start ride, and off it goes. And
You get your choice of
there,
music.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can hook up your own Spotify. So as soon as you get in, it'll connect to your phone and use your playlists if you have them. Or else it just has its own stuff going in the background just for a little background noise. But it's insane. They're so good. They're everywhere. I was at an intersection. There were 3 Waymos in a line just waiting to go through the intersection. We met other Waymos while driving in hours, and they would kind of like go around each other. They were
Yeah.
going up the hills in San Francisco. They
Yeah,
were
yeah.
going past pedestrians and bikes and all kinds of stuff. And they were so good.
And
I
you get
was
to see
so
the
impressed.
LiDAR in real time, which gives you a real confidence boost of like, oh, I'm not going to
Yeah.
hit this bicyclist because it sees said
Yes.
bicyclist, yeah.
It's very much like the Tesla screen. If you've ever ridden a Tesla where it's like car up here in front of me, pedestrians over here, bicycle here, another Waymo 2 cars ahead. Yeah, you can see it all identifying and turning, but man, it was great. I was so impressed. I cannot wait until this rolls out in a bigger way.
I've still yet to experience it, so I am very jealous. The problem is my work trips are all now to Boston, which I'm going to in another month or two, and Boston's fighting the Waymos. There's a whole bit, yeah, I know, because Waymo wants to go to Boston, and then there's people fighting against it, which I mean I somewhat understand, but at the same time, like I just need to try them. I might have to just justify making a trip to like Austin or San Francisco or Phoenix, one of the cities that has it, just to experience it.
Yeah, it is fun. So the last time I think last year I went during a heat wave, and then 3 of us were in the city. Me, two friends of mine, and we just on a lark decided to do a Waymo, and we're like, whoa, that's really cool, and took it to the BART.
Mm-hmm.
And then this time when I just went recently, we took the BART over and then did some. We decided just kind of touristing, let's just do the touristing thing. So we did the streetcars, which were a blast. And then of course the streetcars kind of leave you in the middle of, kind of nowhere. And then it's like, oh, Waymo. And it's like, and then we just did Waymos everywhere. And it was so nice. I mean, you're being chauffeured, and it's such a primo experience. Just really nice.
Yeah, it's just very cool. And they have Waymos here in Atlanta, but they're through Uber. So I never know, and I don't need to Uber in Atlanta. I have a car. I don't need to have somebody chauffeur me. So yeah, it's just not nearly as convenient. But when we're walking around in San Francisco, sometimes the restaurant for the night would be like way over here, or we'd go to the office for the local people, and it'd be, in a different part of town. So yeah, being able to just order up a Waymo and it would be there in minutes because they're all over the place. They're just crawling everywhere. Was awesome. The only thing that I could not take a Waymo for was the airport. They're still working on airport rides and freeway driving. But if you're in town just trying to navigate around the city, Waymos are everywhere.
Yeah, you got the Airport though, out to SFO, and then similar sort of thing with Oakland.
Yeah, I took the BART and the Caltrain into the city, and then my hotel was just like a 5-minute walk from the train station, so that was great too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what's making me happy this week is Dungeon Crawler Carl. So, book 8 is out, and
Love it.
I've been binging it. I'm about 80% done with it. I'm gonna be finishing it later tonight as we record this. But I think what really makes me happy is the phenomenon is catching on. So they signed a pretty big deal with Audible because the audiobooks behind it, and especially the narrator, have become quite famous. So
nice.
Like right now, the book 8 for Dungeon Crawler Carl is #1 on Audible. It's ahead of like the Harry Potter full cast things that they're doing there. And they've been also doing some YouTube videos to promote it, which have been really fun with the author and the main. There's one dude, Jeff Hayes, who does the audiobooks and does all the voices. And there's over 200 voiced characters, and this one dude does all of them. And
wow.
it's insanity. Like both my wife and I, when we listened to the first one, we thought there were multiple people involved. It just turns out it's just the one dude who does all of it. So
that's impressive.
It's pretty impressive. If you're not familiar with the books, I mean, they're up to 8 books at this point. The premise is basically aliens come, dude gets thrown into this dungeon, like real world RPG environment, and then antics ensue from there.
Of course.
And
yes.
It's a fun time. It's what makes the book so good is that per that premise, you wouldn't expect there to be a lot of depth, but there's a shocking amount of character development and this like rich set of characters with really fulfilling arcs in it that we're in a book series that has no business having any of that whatsoever. And so it's just a fun time.
Yeah. I just started reading the first book on the plane ride back yesterday. So I'm about a third of the way through, and it's not disappointing so far.
All right. You convinced me. Excellent. I'm in. I'm sold.
Yeah. You could either do the books, or like I said, the audiobooks are excellent, or you could just like what I've been doing is I read through the books and I've been going back and doing some of the audiobooks as like a second pass, and they're both just really good. And it's so unique. There's nothing really like the lit RPG genre is becoming more of a thing. So there's other stuff like it now, but if you've not read a book like this before, it's totally just really a really unique read.
Yeah, there's Legends and Lattes or something like that too, right? Kind of in this space.
Yeah, I think that's very similar.
Yeah.
I've not read that, but I've heard the name.
I think it's good.
It's the new romantasy.
Something.
Yeah. Well.
Right. Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, I think that is our episode for this week. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. As a reminder, in our show notes, we put everything. So we have links to all of our socials. We're on all the social medias. We have a link to our Discord channel where we hang out. If you want to talk to us about anything front-end related or really anything related at this point, we just like to hang out there. But I think that is our episode this week. So thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Then.